Okay. Thought my speaker was on. Is there still a speaker on? All right, I'll call this October 4th, 2022 Board of Education meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Kate Thomas,
Here.
Troy Carr,
Here.
Deb Baker, Clay Cologne,
Here.
Jamie Clapham is absent with notice. Mr. Hanson will be joining us as soon as he can. Michael Berkland.
Here.
Laura Jensen, Kevin Big Crow, and Megan Zhu.
Thank you. Pastor Randy Phipps from Midtown Church is here tonight to do our invocation. Go ahead.
Good joy. Thank you for the invitation. This is the first time I've been in this new facility. And, you know, sometimes you think about all the new things we get used to. I want to go to Dinosaur Park. And this would be new for a while. I'm talking to a friend of mine. My favorite Star Wars is no longer what it is. And restaurants are closed and people have come and gone and stuff. But one thing remains the same, and that's our Lord. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And we're praying for this blessing over this group of people gathered with the priority that you have. Thank you for your schools, to our community, to our children, and to our families. Join with me as we pray and ask for God's blessing over this. Father, thank you once again that we know we can count on you, we depend upon you, we rely upon you, we come to you tonight asking blessing over this Rapid City School Board, over these teachers, over these administrators, over these students, Lord God. Thank you for your hand of direction, your hand of protection, for wisdom and discernment, knowing, Lord God, that there's things that are in need of change, things that would lead to progress and lead to good. There are other things, Lord God, that are good the way they are, Father. Give wisdom. Distribute this to this board, to these people that are entrusted with the decision, Lord God, the right attitude, the right spirit, Lord God. Thank you for this board of education. Thank you for these schools. Thank you for these students. We give you the glory and praise. Amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Make motion.
Second.
Deb and Troy. We don't have anybody on Zoom, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we are on to persons wishing to address the board. We have exactly 6, so we don't need to extend the time, and each person gets 5 minutes. Very quickly, any issues that affect an individual or particular school should be first addressed at the building level, so staff has the opportunity to address the issues. Speakers should focus on their main points and not be repetitive. Personal matters or complaints that directly or indirectly identify an employee shall not be discussed. And to maintain a civil dialogue, threats and intimidation are not allowed. All right, Andrew Belsauce, you're first up.
Good evening, board. My name is Andrew Belsauce, and this year I started my 10th year teaching over at Central High School. I wanted to speak today about agenda item 9R, addendum for surplus property. Under this item are 3 of the books that were pulled from the English 12 curriculum choice reading library. Birds of Being a Wallflower, How Beautiful We Were, and Girl, Woman, Other. I wanted to come to this meeting with a growth mindset of how to prevent this situation from happening again. What policies can parents, teachers, administrators, librarians, and students collaborate on to make sure all parties feel respected when it comes to literature and curriculum. I figured as a starting point, I would look at the existing policies that encompass curriculum development, instructional materials, textbook selection and adaptation, library resource management, and procedures and forms for filing a complaint regarding a library resource. The conclusion I drew is that many of our existing policies were disregarded in reference to these books.
Thank you, Shirley. I wasn't involved in the selection, approval, or implementation of the books and will not speak to the work that went on with those committees, but I will speak to relevant policies to the removal of them. Policy IIA, Selection of Instructional Materials, Part 5. The value and impact of any materials used for the delivery of curriculum or library resources will be judged as a whole, taking into account the purpose of the material rather than individual isolated expressions or incidents of the work. When we pull a single scene from Fun Home or a single paragraph from How Beautiful We Were, we are not looking at the purpose of the material or the work as a whole. Instead, we are evaluating the work by a single incident. Policy IIAA, Textbook Selection and Adaptation, Part 4. The Board of Education recognizes the rights of parents to influence the education of their children. The Board of Education will not, however, allow the wishes of an individual parent to infringe upon the rights of the majority of the students in any class. I think that we know that these books contain mature themes and that certain families are not comfortable with these materials being read. But some students and families are ready to dive into these challenging topics. These were choice books within literary circles. These were not books that all English 12 students were required to read. I believe that removing the books from the whole class infringes on parent and student rights to access the material. We know, however, that the books were indeed removed and that students no longer had access to them. Were these books removed following policy IIAD, Procedure for Responding to Complaints Regarding Instructional Materials or Library Resources? To highlight important points in the procedure, there must be a committee formed who reads, views, or listens to the work in their entirety, consults and considers professional reviews, discusses the validity of the complaint in comparison to the value of the resource within the curriculum, and most importantly, the item will remain in the collection without restriction during the review process. It then discusses paperwork needed to be filled out and the hierarchy of reporting, starting with librarians and teachers, moving up to administrators, building level committees, district leadership, and finally the school board. Even if an administrator wants to remove a book from a library, they need to follow a procedure, and there is an addendum specifically for administrators challenging books from libraries. So to circle back to why I wanted to speak today, I don't think our district needs a new policy around the approval and removal of instructional materials. I simply think that our district needs to follow the existing policy and to be transparent throughout the process. Moving on to the 3 books on the surplus list, I think they deserve to be actually discussed and reviewed by a committee as outlined in our policy. Maybe this has already happened behind closed doors, but I truly believe if we follow the outlined procedures, these works of literature would be deemed appropriate for mature students to read in English 12 classrooms. I encourage you to vote no to surplus of these works and to form a reconsideration committee through policy IIAD-E2 to argue the worth and challenges of these books. Thank you.
My mic was not on. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, board. I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about the state standards meeting that went on in Aberdeen. I drove down there for that meeting along with a few other people. And I was very impressed with the standards. I read them before I went, and I listened to all the testimony about the standards. As one would expect, right before the meeting, there was an article in the local paper that seemed to indicate some sort of outrage that these standards were already written. They were not. What happened was Hillsdale, which is the institution, it's a private college, provided materials, a framework, like a blank. When you go to make a new key. You start with a structure, but then the end result is designed for your liking. And I would encourage everyone to go to that meeting, and you can do that by going online to South Dakota Boards and Commissions, scroll down to Education, Board of Education Standards, and then at the bottom of the page of the September 19th meeting, there is a sound clip. You can listen to all 4 hours and 23 minutes if you'd like. But I would say that probably the most valuable part of that was the rebuttal, because the rebuttal really answered every question and every complaint that was brought forth in the 90-minute opponent's testimony. One of the things that people forget is that the Common Core standards were not yet written when South Dakota adopted them. And when they were written, they were copyrighted by the National Governors Association and the CCSSO. So they couldn't be altered. So the complaint that these were already written kind of falls flat when you consider that our state has already 10, 11 years ago. No, I take that back. It was in the fall of 2009 that we agreed to adopt the standards before they were even written. There was another complaint that the new standards that are proposed will not align with the state test. Well, that's really not a problem with the standards. The test is supposed to reflect the standards, not the other way around. So I would say that that probably means that when the standards are adopted, the test will be rewritten also to reflect that. Memorization and inquiry were compared. For some reason, I guess now it seems that memorization seems to be and some sort of evil thing to require of children. But what it is a building block. It is a tool for education. It's kind of a mental shorthand. And everyone knows, if you've got a child or a little brother or sister or whatever, you know that little children are sponges. They can memorize things and they take great joy in doing it and replaying it. And sometimes things you don't want them to. But that is not beyond the capability of young children. There was a complaint about the $200,000 that was paid to Professor Morrissey from Hillsdale to help with the development of the standards. But I would say to you that that is actually a bargain, because our state will spend $1.1 billion in 2023 on education. So getting a good set of standards is in my opinion, priceless. I encourage everyone to go to the standards. In fact, the SDEA did us kind of a favor. They put a side-by-side comparison of the current standards with juxtaposed with the new proposed standards. And the new standards are written in plain, easy to understand English. There's no question what children will be required to do or know, and what, you know, as opposed to the subjective nature of the current standards. So I encourage everyone to look at those comparisons, read the new standards, listen at least from the 4-hour mark on that clip. And, you know, you can listen to the whole thing, I dare you. But, but anyway, these are good standards. I would encourage you not to have knee-jerk reactions and, you know, make that determination for yourselves. Thank you.
All right, next speaker, David Needham.
3 minutes.
5. You have 5.
Yeah, you said, "Oh, in such a hurry." Hey, I'm gonna say something. I wasn't gonna talk about this, but the idea that you can't memorize is when I was a kid, every single student, I mean, there might have been a few that had learning disabilities, and I understand that, but every single student had multiplication tables 1 through 10 memorized. So that's just, I don't know how you could get through life without it personally. Anyhow, you know, I'm going to talk about teachers unions. That's kind of something that I'm focused on. It's because NEA and the AFT are very clear about their agenda. And it's totally one-sided and it's so political, it doesn't belong in the schools. So anyhow, in an op-ed titled Wake Up Call for Public Education, former New York Mayor and liberal Democrat Michael Bloomberg warned that America's public school system is in a free fall and placed some of the blame on teachers' unions. He warned that declining enrollment in public schools are emblematic of the detonation of America's education system, and parents are voting with their feet. He noted that nearly 1.3 million students have left public schools since COVID began. As for the decline in public school enrollment across America, Bloomberg argued that the message to educators could not be clearer. Too many public schools are failing and urgent action is needed. Until now, however, the only governmental response has been to spend more money, much of which has gone to everyone but our children. Bloomberg criticized teachers' unions leaders because they resisted a return to in-classroom instruction long after it was clear that classrooms were safe. And he slammed remote instruction as being mostly a disaster, noting that the first year of the pandemic left students on average 5 months behind in math and 4 months behind in reading, with larger gaps for low-income students. Now, after students have fled public schools in record numbers, states are paying more to educate fewer children. And he says that might be acceptable if students were showing improvement. Instead, we are paying for more failure, he said. So Bloomberg pointed to public charter schools as a more successful mechanism for educating America's students and criticized politicians for supporting legislation, making it harder to operate charter schools and easier for regular public schools to escape accountability. Okay, I'm going to spend 2 minutes getting this thing apart. This is a 3-minute speech. Okay, so he said it's no wonder that many charter schools have long wait lists, since charters have a proven track record of outperforming district schools. One nationwide analysis found that districts with more charters yield higher reading and math scores as well as higher graduation rates. Other research has found that the benefits are especially profound for Black, Latino, and low-income students. As parents continue to pull their kids from traditional public schools and put them in charter schools are becoming underfunded on a per pupil basis, he said. The idea that we would allow public charter school students from disadvantaged backgrounds to be deprived of great teachers so that we can staff schools with declining enrollments as though they were full makes no sense until we factor in politics, Bloomberg wrote. And then it makes perfect sense because so many politicians are beholden to union leaders who oppose charters. You know, Michael Bloomberg, a liberal Democrat, makes it clear that it is not only conservatives that are concerned with the myriad of negative impacts that teachers' unions are having on public education. If teachers refuse to reform their unions, then parents and students deserve to be given the choice that school vouchers provide. Bloomberg argued that without reform, public schools will continue to fail students and will hurt future generations. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Kara Flynn.
Hi, good evening, board. My name is Kara Flynn, and I'm here tonight as the executive director of the Rapid City Public School Foundation. And we have some of our fall grants on the agenda tonight. And I just wanted to let you know that my board enthusiastically endorsed these as being really innovative and forward thinking. And I want to talk a little bit about them. First off, we received these grants and most of them were time sensitive. So we did review them early, and we're piloting a program to look at awarding grants as they come in so that teachers have the money that they need when they need it. And the 3 grants that are on your agenda this evening is the first one is the General Beadle Elementary School from Johnny Hurdle and Principal Saylor. And this one was around $2,900 for their Cultivating the Arts grant. And this will go to buy supplies, canvases and art supplies for an after-school program to cultivate the artistic talents of their students. And then they're going to sell those paintings at an art auction and use those proceeds to purchase supplies such as Native American flutes and drums and other items for their after-school clubs. So it's really a self-sustaining grant, and we were really excited to see that. And it also will bring a lot of families in because the after-school clubs will include both students and and families. The second grant was from a teacher at South Middle School, Sabrina Johnson, and she received $1,200 for her grant entitled Honor Roll at the Elks. And she has applied for an incentive program to encourage all the South Middle School children to make it onto the honor roll, and they will get a perk. So we funded the first round of this, and then we are actively seeking a corporate partner to sponsor this program in the future. So look for more information. And the final grant was also at South Middle School from Tabitha Purley, and she was approved to receive almost $2,500 for her food preservation grant. She teaches family and consumer science at South, and she'll utilize funds to purchase a dehydrator, smoker, and canning supplies to teach students how to preserve food. Produce from the courtyard garden at South Middle School will be utilized, and she'll also have to purchase additional produce. And then the Oshete Sakowin Essential Understanding teacher from Rapid City area schools will incorporate the cultural component of traditional food preservation in the project also. And then she is going to sell those products during school events and earn the money to sustain the program for years to come. So we are very excited about these innovative grants and how they're going to encourage students. And thank you for considering this, and have a good night.
Thank you. All right, next speaker, Florence Thompson.
Thank you. My name is Florence Thompson. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education. I'm also a retired school psychologist with over 40 years experience in the schools. At the last school board meeting, which was a special meeting, they were talking about the CTE program, Career and Technical Education. And it sounds like, you know, we're doing a good job and trying to improve even more of getting kids ready for careers so that when they graduate from high school, they can get into a good job. And not every kid is going to college. So it's a good idea to let these kids, you know, explore and to be thinking of their future and be really developing the skills and the qualifications to go right into a job. I wanted to ask a question, and I'm going to ask that tonight, and I don't expect an answer tonight, but I do think it needs to be considered. I wanted to ask Mr. Carroll, the director, how do you think drug use affects your students' eligibility for jobs, their performance on the jobs? How big a problem is that to a student if they are a drug user and they are trying to get a job? Or maybe it affects whether they even want to get a job. So I think that's something that needs to be considered, because this is happening right now in South Dakota. We are talking about legalizing recreational marijuana. And it has been proven in other states that increases, even though it's not legal for kids, it does increase the students' drug use. And I think in Colorado, they were saying 12% just in the initial year. So yes, it becomes a big problem, and it becomes a growing problem, because marijuana does affect the developing brain, and it can cause all types of things. And most employers do not want to hire somebody who's on drugs. And that's one of the reasons we've got all these hiring signs out, because either A, people don't want to work, or B, they're not, you know, they can't pass a drug test. So I have a lot of information here that it's from partially from protectingsdkids.com. And also, if you haven't heard any of the wonderful presentations they've had 2 or 3 different experts come in and talk about the tragic effects of marijuana on young people, psychosis, all kinds of mental and physical health problems, suicide. It damages their brain development, it causes child abuse, unemployment, a living off the government attitude, A lot of these kids will eventually be on some kind of a medical subsidy because they'll have to get their marijuana paid for by the state through Medicaid. So I'd like to hand these out to the board. So you have this list of references. So I'll give that to Shirley when I'm through here. And then I would like to suggest that the board, become educated on this and that they might consider, if it's appropriate, if you determine it's appropriate, passing a resolution against the legalization of marijuana. So I'm hopeful that that can happen. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the books if I have a little bit of time left. I would like to support the board and the administrators who made the decision to pull the books that were deemed inappropriate. I think we all know that there's a culture war going on. I think we all know that there is a sexual revolution. It's been going on for quite a while. And it's now gone into the LGBT and the transgender and all this type of thing. So there are definitely two sides in this. And one side wants to push these issues and the other side doesn't want them in the public schools. I applaud the board for being thoughtful and doing the right thing on this. It's not up to the schools to introduce kids to sexuality. They'll get that at home or they can get plenty of it off the internet.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last speaker, Area Pazorski.
You got the last name. Hello, I'm Ariel Pazorski. I am a fourth year teacher with RCAS and an educator of senior level students. I'm going to speak briefly to addendum item R, or the surplus property list. I would like to reiterate the idea that decisions be made that align with our current policy. I would also ask that in favor of being a fully informed decision, that if these books have not been reviewed in whole yet, that a comprehensive committee that reflects our community, our staff, and our students be formed to review them in whole. In favor of respecting the maturity of our senior level students and the parental rights of all families in the district, I would suggest that these books be kept and all concerned families or students be given an opportunity for an alternative choice if ever needed. That is all.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to sharing the success, which is exciting this time. We haven't had one of these in quite some time. Will you introduce Mrs. Swigert?
Yes, I'm excited to welcome the Central High School Drama Club directors and students to present tonight the Central High School season reveal. So I will turn it over to them. Huge fan of the theater arts and a huge fan of Mr. Speck and all of his humans that do this great work. So please share with us.
Good evening. My name is Asher Burke. I am a senior at Central High School and currently am president of CHS Players Drama Club. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you all for your support in the performing arts. And I am incredibly excited to tell you about our fall show, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. The show follows a church putting on its annual Christmas pageant along the lines of the family, the Bradleys, the church-going family, and as they are brought upon by the Herdmans, a rowdy, naughty, incredibly disruptive family as they chaotically put on the best Christmas pageant ever.
Hello, I'm Josiah Fagerland. I'm a junior and I am the vice president of the drama club. For the 1X, we are doing Everyone Gets Eaten by Sharks, which everyone does get eaten by sharks. We are also doing Equinox as our stage show. That will be like a ballet movement type musical based on South American folklore. Both shows will be showing January 30th and 31st, and we will be going to state February 1st through February 6th or 5th. I can't quite remember. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Garrett Crossland. I'm a junior and I am the secretary of the Central High School Drama Club. Our spring show is the classic story of Cinderella. We'll be performing April 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And that is all I have to say.
Hello, I'm Amelie Wilcox. I'm a junior and I'm the Drama Club publicist historian. I have the honor of sharing with you the Advocates for Creative Theater Students musical, A Chorus Line, which takes you through the difficult and challenging process of auditioning actors and the competition within it. A big thank you to you all, and we'd love to share with you the season reveal video. Thank you.
Did you share the screen and share that? Okay, great. Thank you.
Check it out.
Do we want to stop until it's shared?
Stop and then turn this down. And then you're gonna have to turn the speaker off.
Is the speaker on your computer shut off? No, it has to be on so you can, till the sound comes.
It shouldn't when you're sharing the screen. Share the screen with audio on.
There we go.
There we go.
So as I said, I'm a huge fan. Can you shut off the sound? Huge fan of the theater arts at both schools, but especially connected to Central High School's performing arts program. It's a long story. We could get into it another time, but I take 100% credit for Mr. Speck being at Central High School. I also would encourage the community to recognize that the ACTS performance is adults and students, and auditions are open. They also take volunteers to do things like technical direction. Gentlemen, you'll have to forgive me because I'm pretty sure I promised during Pippin that I would participate in the next show, but I'm going to be a little busy. But I was a technical director for a previous ACTS performance, and just a huge shout out to that fundraising effort to send students overseas to enjoy theater in other locations. So I encourage people to support that fundraising effort and the whole season. I'm excited.
I just wanted to say thank you guys so much again for all your support, and I am willing to answer any questions if there are any.
I want to apologize. I should have had this down at the city building. It does not, this room does not do your presentations justice. I am sorry. Yes, that's my only comment. I don't have a question. Any other board members have questions?
All righty then, thank you guys.
Thank you. Great. We look forward to it. All right, we are on to our new student representative reports. We have Laura Jensen from Central High School going first. There's a hesitation sometimes on that too.
This is much easier than at the other
Oh,
building. I was on your city council and those mics don't like me. Well, let's just say I still can't figure them out. Anyways, hello, board and everyone else here. I'm Laura Jensen. I am your Rapid City Central student representative, and I am a senior at Central High School. Before I went to Central, I attended South Middle School and Grandview Elementary after I moved here from Hermosa in 4th grade. And I am honored to have been selected to represent my class of 2023. With an enrollment of 1,927 students, Central High School is fed primarily from North, South, and East middle schools. We are all Central cobblers, though, as soon as we walk through those front doors. Some recent activities going on at our school. Last week, we had homecoming. It was a great success. It was a lot of fun. All the students I talked to seemed like they had a great time. The coronation was on Monday night last week, and our senior Riley Rowe was voted king, and Jaden Claren was our queen. Central Student Council hosted the first PEP assembly for the first time in 2 years, which was really exciting. At the PEP assembly, we had a performance from one of our very own Central High School students, junior Rowan Hibbard, and she is on The Voice, and she'll be performing Monday, October 10th at 7 p.m. You should all go watch her and keep up with whatever she's doing because she's an amazing person and an even better singer. Also on Friday, Central held a very successful blood drive in our wrestling room, and the football team unfortunately suffered a tough loss to Sioux Falls Roosevelt, but other events happened that week. We had tennis, they did pretty good at their meets, and we had boys and girls soccer, both won against Douglas. Marching band will leave this Friday to go to their one and only competition that they have, but my brother's in it and he's really excited. He's a freshman this year, so that'll be lots of fun. Other stuff that's coming up, October 6th, this Thursday, we have post-high planning for juniors and seniors to attend, where they'll have a bunch of booths from colleges and other stuff for after high school so that they can dip their toes in the water and figure out what they kind of want to do. Just a little extra help. They will be excused from their second block, so that's cool. I'll be doing that for sure. And then this Friday, October 7th, is a professional development day for staff, and students also have the day off. And then that next Monday, we also have the day off for Native American Day, and many of my classmates will be representing Central at the Black Hills Powwow, where there will be a lot of hand games, archery, dancing, and booths all weekend. Thursday, October 13th, we have our parent-teacher conferences. It is our first this year out of 4, I believe, and it'll be a good thing to see our teachers, get to talk to them, and figure out what all we are doing good. Hopefully, Ms. Przorski. She's my English teacher right now, so hopefully I'm doing okay. All right, and then just a reminder to all our seniors to visit their counselors about the South Dakota College Access Campaign, which allows free college applications to South Dakota and Tech schools through November 30th. And one more thing is graduation is May 28th, 2023. That is all I have to say.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to Rapid City High School Representative Kevin Bigcrow.
All righty. Good evening, board. My name is Kevin Bigcrow, and I'm currently a junior at Rapid City High and will be representing Rapid City High. I've attended Red Cloud and Central High School before finding my way to Rapid City High School. I play club cross for our local club team, which is the Black Hills Shock. It's an honor to represent Rapid City High School as a whole. And yeah, I appreciate everyone for coming tonight and just showing up to the first board meeting. Very respect to every one of you guys for being here, and we'll move on to the current events at Rapid City High School. Rapid City High School had an amazing start to the 2023 school year. This year we have welcomed 10 new staff members who we as students are training quickly, very quickly. I'm great at that. Rapid City High School has also started a 9th grade transition credit recovery program to focus on learners that have struggled to move beyond 9th grade. One other large change in our building this year was the adoption of the quarter schedule. Learners at Rapid City now focus on 4 classes at a time for 9 weeks each. This is much like a block scheduling at Central High School. However, we do not alternate days, and the schedules stay the same for daily activities. The accelerated pace and alignment with the district allows for more credit attainment and advancement in each year. On the 21st of September, the freshmen and sophomores of Rapid City High School took their first pre-ACT test of the school year. While they tested, the juniors and seniors spent time in guided study halls. high school parent-teacher conferences are next Thursday on 13th from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Rapid City High School offers a hybrid option with both in-person and virtual options. Rapid City High School also ensures every learner's guardian is connected with a parent during parent-teacher conferences through the advisory program. Continuing on, Lifeways will be hosting an Escape the Vape class twice a month at Rapid City High School. These courses will be an educational opportunity for students at Rapid City High School to be better informed about the risks and side effects of nicotine addiction. Continuing on with Inktober, Mr. Wee, one of our art teachers, has brought Inktober to our hallways. Inktober is a fun activity for learners and staff to explore their artistic side. Every day throughout October, there is a new word posted and anyone can pick up a pen and create their own version of the prompt. And today's prompt is scallop. So if you get bored, please, I would love to see it. And that is all for me today. But in my closing, I would like to remind everyone of the school-wide expectations at Rapid City High School. Be respectful, be present, and be courageous. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, and last we have Megan Jew from Stevens High School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Megan Zhu, and I'm this year's student representative from Stevens High School. I'm a senior this year, and I previously went to Southwest and Corral Drive. And I'm very excited to be here. So today I'll just be going over some of the extracurricular activities and educational opportunities at Stevens in my report. So first, to discuss activities, the Stevens varsity volleyball team competed this weekend, winning all 6 of their games and secured an invite to the Twin City tournament. The girls' JV tennis team competed in Mitchell at the Big Futures tournament and won first place as well. Additionally, the Stevens speech and debate team competed in Belle Fourche over this past weekend and had 12 out of 16 entries placed in various interp events, and the debate team was given the leading chapter award by the National Speech and Debate Association, which is only given to one team in each district. And the knowledgeable A team took second place at their meet in Hot Springs this weekend, and today the playoffs are happening for the girls and boys soccer team, so we are sending them our luck on their way to state championships, hopefully. This past week was Stevens homecoming week with dress-up days throughout the week, and the football team played on Friday with the marching band performing at halftime. The student council also put on a homecoming dance for the first time in years, selling an impressive 730 tickets. We also had our first full school assembly since 2020, with Maddie Cutler and Nash Sobzak being crowned homecoming queen and king. On the education side of things, there have been 2 grad time assemblies so far this year, with juniors and seniors learning about options post-high school and how to approach the college application process. Stevens has wonderful counselors who are helping students through their applications and providing advice on how to look for scholarships. There will be a FAFSA completion event at Stevens in November to help parents fill out the FAFSA. On September 21st, the PACT was given at Stevens for all 9th and 10th graders, and on September 27th, the students in the Introduction to Construction and Engineering class attended a construction camp. This Thursday, juniors and seniors will be attending a college fair at the Civic Center during their first 2 periods to explore possible colleges they may attend or options like the Army. And that's all I have for my report tonight, and so thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you to all 3 of you. It sounds like there's a lot going on at the schools, and we look forward to the other reports that you bring. Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes.
Just for your information, Mr. Hanson joined at 5:37.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we are moving on to number 8, conflict of interest. No waivers have been turned in, so we are on to the approval of the consent. I need a motion. Deb? And Troy, would anybody like anything pulled?
Like item R pulled, please.
Sure. All right. So with Q and R pulled, and we have a first and second, we do need a roll call on that if he's on Zoom to approve.
Kate?
Yes.
Troy?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Clay?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, on to Q. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Troy and Deb. Discussion, please.
I pulled this just for discussion. I wanted to make some comments to the district and to the community. One of the reasons why I suggested and will approve this this organizational chart is, as we talked about last week, the responsibilities of the school board are to write and develop policies for the district, to hire the superintendent, and to develop and approve the budget. And I believe this organizational chart does that. Historically, as I came on the board, I found that there was a communication bottleneck between administration and the school board. And we're finding out that we didn't know a lot of things that were supposed to be communicated to the board. And those that were under the superintendent's office assumed that there was information getting back to us, and that was not the case. So I'm hoping that this chart will eliminate some of that, and the board will be informed and educated about what's going on. The other thing that I think is really important that we don't notice is, as you look at the organizational chart, that just like the superintendent and the chief financial officer will be responsible to the board also has a responsibility to the community. And as we know, the community hires the board, will vote through vote. And so it's important that just like the board expects communication to us about what's going on, I think the community deserves to receive that same type of communication and information from the board. And so the board is conscious and will have a couple of things in place. I think one of the things that we talked about is being more descriptive and open about what's going on during the board meetings. And also on the website, we plan to have we haven't decided what to call it, but just the way that that the board can be responsible and communicative to the community. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other comments?
I would just add real quick. Last week, we talked about this for like an hour. So if you have any questions, please look back at last week's video and it's probably answered there.
Thank you. Good point. All right, roll call vote.
Kate,
Yes.
Troy,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
and Michael.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, moving on to R. I need a motion in a second.
Second.
Troy and Clay. All right, discussion. I know that we, before board members have their comments, Mrs. Swigert, would you please explain a little bit about why these are on as an addendum separate from the other surplus list?
Thank you, Madam President. Although the books situation originated before I came onto the board, I do want to say a few things about the issue because it has reached far and wide. First and foremost, I want to say that the superintendent's office takes responsibility. I think it is important to realize that the superintendent's office is where the buck stops for decisions made on curriculum. Because the buck stops at my office, I think it's important that I go into some detail. And I recognize that individuals may disagree that the district is tasked with providing materials that are suitable for all students and what that looks like, because we are all unique individuals and we look at things differently. When administration, teachers, students, and families in the community find fault with curriculum, those concerns deserve to be addressed. In this case, a new course was created, and to be perfectly honest, from all the research I have done, the process to select materials was not equal to our normal curriculum process. Normal curriculum process go through a total curriculum review. In this case, books were picked out by staff. From my understanding, there was a very short timeline. Those books' titles were shared through a purchase order that went through the TLI office and then came through the superintendent's office through approval and was then placed on a purchase order. The process was not vetted in the same manner that other curriculum has been vetted in the past. When those curriculum pieces, those books were added to the content at the school districts, complaints came forth very quickly with concern. Because the process had not been followed in its entirety throughout how we do curriculum adoptions, those books were pulled. I respect the open forum comments about the process policies being followed, but I feel strongly that in order for the policy to be followed in this case, we have to back up and have the policy followed from the beginning. And that is not what happened. The district needs to accept and take measures to make sure that future curriculum materials are fully vetted and approved in the same manner as all courses material is approved for in this district. Shortcuts in the process are what led to the concerns for this material. The district has learned from this experience and will make the necessary changes to ensure that curriculum offered in our courses meets the standards set forth for our district and follows our curriculum adoption policy. So although I realize this is contentious, with 21 years of teaching English in this district, I am very aware through the research for this, the same process was not followed. And so I do support the fact that these were pulled and that they have been placed on the surplus list.
Thank you. Are there any questions? And then we'll take comments from board members. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, President Thomas, and thank you, Mrs. Swiger, for that. First off, I want to say I appreciate you owning and that there were mistakes made across the board. I felt like first thing I want to start with is an apology because I felt like in the spring it was scapegoated to our staff. Did they make mistakes? Absolutely. From my understanding, there were some books recommended without reading them. There were certain teachers who were not offering alternative assignments. I do disagree with that, but there were mistakes made across the board. Along those same lines, I would like to apologize. I think it was also inappropriate to accuse our teachers of distributing pornography. Pornographic and graphic are very different things, and I think that line needs to be drawn. And perhaps these were graphic; they were not pornographic. All that being said, I agree that the policy was not followed from the beginning, but I don't personally believe that means that policy should not be followed moving forward. I worry about the precedent that sets. As was already mentioned by some tonight, we have policy that says that an individual parent cannot infringe upon the rights of the majority of students, and that we must look at the works as a whole. If we look at any one of these books as a whole, it is 1 or 2 pages of graphic content surrounded by 400 pages of great literary content. There's complaint processes that we followed and more. Also, per policy, if we talk about parent choice, that means the rights of all parents. And I worry about the precedent once again of where do we draw the line on this? And hopefully moving forward, we just follow our policy, but there are graphic parts of classics like Romeo and Juliet. There's terrible language in Huck Finn. Where do we draw the line there? And the list goes on with what can one person decide or a few people decide is not appropriate. So if we were to pass this addendum tonight, I feel like we do need a new policy outlining those standards and when we do follow these. And as we heard in previous meetings, many parents do want their kids to read these books. I wasn't here on this side of it. I was out there during those meetings, but I heard from our community and during my campaign and all of these things that they do want these kids to read these books. So I don't understand why anyone can take away that freedom for their kid to read that book from them. So to summarize, yes, compromises should be made. Parents should become more informed. We should let them know that these graphic content is in there and alternate materials should be available, but we should not set the precedent that that all it takes to have materials removed is the feelings of one or a few people. And while I do believe in the importance of these books particularly, I think it's really important to have representation and to have living authors. It's amazing how much more a kid is into a book when the person is alive. You could replace their titles with any title and I would still feel the same way per policy. We have policies that just were not followed and I just worry about the precedent. So I think personally that we must vote no, really, because as Bishop Carr mentioned, one of our main duties is to create and uphold policy. Thank you.
I would just add quickly that the reason why not all 5 books in question were on there is because 2 of them could not be found in the warehouse. So they were either destroyed accidentally without permission, or they were sold to the book buyer, which is usually where the library books go, different than curriculum, standard curriculum, which is just a book palette. There's no list of books that they even see. They just pick palettes. So those are the 2 options of what happened to those other 2 books.
President Thomas, I
Yes.
can go into some detail on that. I apologize that I didn't include that in my
No, it's
statement earlier. When the books were removed from Stevens and Central High School, and I do think that it merits knowing that it was more than one concern that brought forth in these books. But when the books were removed from Central and Stevens High School, they were boxed up and they were sent to the warehouse. There is documentation to prove that that is where they went. The difference is 3 of the titles were specifically named and communicated to the warehouse manager to be on the lookout for those and to pull them when they came to the warehouse. 2 titles, that communication did not happen to the warehouse manager, so he was not on the lookout for those to be pulled. That is once again, a failure on the district's part that I think the superintendent's office needs to own. The 3 books that were told to the warehouse manager were pulled and were set aside. And those are the ones that we have on the surplus list tonight. We cannot list books that we cannot locate. I can verify to the public that the books left the high school and went to the warehouse. When they got to the warehouse, there seems to be some confusion of whether they were placed on a pallet that was sold to a book buyer, which is truly what I believe happened, or if they were somehow shipped from one of the high schools with a batch of shredding, not to be shredded, but just transported at the same time. They could have been, unbeknownst to, the warehouse personnel, have been included in that. It was not intentional. There was no subterfuge here. We just made an honest mistake on those. We have put policy or practice, I would say, not policy. We have put practice into place when we send things to the warehouse that we communicate very clearly what we want done with them now, whether we want them held, whether we want them sold, or whether we want what we're putting in the recycle pile. And I would say that the stuff to be shredded is records that should not be, placed in the dump to blow away somewhere. So we're very careful about what we send to that. So that is the facts of that matter of why we have 3 books on the list tonight.
And you made me think of something else as you were talking. Normally, when these books get sent back to the warehouse, they aren't named by title. If they are to be put to the bookseller, they are just on there as library
Surplus
books,
library books,
surplus books
curriculum
to be
books.
sold to book buyers. So these should never have been named in the first place on that list. But tonight we didn't rename them so that people were aware of what's happening to these books, and that we have taken quite some time to listen to attorneys and wait out some, our attorneys are not separate from their other jobs. They have other trials, they have other things. We don't have our own in-house. So there was quite a bit of time that they have other things that they are working on as well as this. So please forgive the amount of time that it's taken, but at the very least, we have the right recommendation at this point. So any other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. I just want to, for me, it's been a learning experience, and I think the incident is a learning experience for everybody. And my other comment, second to the last comment, is again, it's difficult to follow a policy going out when the policy coming in was not followed. And then there's an assumption that these 5 books would have made it through if we had followed the correct initial policy. There's an assumption that these books would have made it through that qualification, which they may have or they may not. So I don't think it's a matter of a precedent being set. The precedent that needs to be set is for us to follow the policy. And if they made it in following the policy, fine, then we could have used the policy going out to determine if there was a complaint. So.
That's a good point. Yes, go ahead, Claire.
Thank you, President Thomas. Yeah, I agree. And the primary thing here is policy needs to be followed. We have these, the policy set up in order for, these books, any curriculum, any new classes to be developed to get the proper vetting, and we need to do that. So it's, I'm not happy to hear that it wasn't followed. I would like to, I guess see these go through the policy. If they get chosen and adopted, then that happens. If they don't, it doesn't. But go through the proper policy. I think that's a good way for the district to own what happened, and for us, again, to follow our policies and procedures. That's what they're there for, and we need to follow them. And if we don't, we need to acknowledge it. We need to own it. Thank you, Mrs. Swigert, for that. But I think we owe it to the students, to the staff, to then follow it through. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Kind of to Mr. Colom's comments. To me, it feels premature to sell these at this point when our teachers have gone through work to try to find them. Why not just start back at the beginning? Why don't we hold these books? I know that the warehouse is full. I'll keep them in my house. I don't care. Why don't we hold these books, begin that process, and then we haven't wasted time and $2,000 to go buy and purchase the books again. I do believe that if they went through that initial process and we looked at these works as a whole, as is prescribed in the process, we would find that they would be allowed. So this feels premature to me to sell them.
Okay. If there's no other comments, we have a motion and a second. So we need a roll call to.
Kate,
Yes.
Troy, Deb,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Clay,
No.
Michael.
No.
Motion passes 4-2.
Thank you. And we are now on to the reports of the superintendent.
Thank you, President Thomas. First of all, I want to say that nice job, student reps. It's so nice to have you here. I think I can shorten my report a lot because you're covering so many things that I have been covering before you joined us about the activities. But I wrote this before I heard yours, so bear with me if it's repetitive. I do want to speak a little bit about the Rapid City School Foundation. I've really enjoyed being a member of their board. I am especially appreciative of their approach to grants this year, because this year, instead of having 1 or 2 specific deadlines to apply for grants, they are considering grants as they come in if there's a timely need, and they are communicating that out to board members and then allowing discussion at board meetings. And that has allowed three grants to be awarded already this school year, which is really amazing. 2 of them were very timely. I mean, they could not have waited until a different time of the year. And I think that will encourage teachers to think creatively and outside of the box to make grant proposals that can be done and impact student learning in a very timely fashion. So I'm super excited about that. I want to put a shout out to the Rapid City Public School Foundation. They are a wonderful organization that really supports us. Homecoming at both schools. And in the beginning, I thought, what are we doing holding homecoming at Central and Stevens on the same week? But as I was out and about at buildings, the school spirit really was reminiscent of years gone by. I'm aging myself, but when I first started teaching in the Rapid City School District, homecoming was a huge deal and so much school spirit. And there really was a ton of school spirit at both high schools, both of the main high schools this last week. I could not attend the pep assembly at Stevens because of a funeral, but I did attend the pep assembly at Central, and I heard great things about the pep assembly at Stevens. So much student excitement, and it was really amazing to see. And I just feel like it's really what we needed following COVID. It was just amazing to see. The games were, we have been blessed with really fantastic weather for football this year, and I appreciate that. The marching bands at both schools performed their whole shows, and just a shout out to everybody who's involved in making football nights so fun to be at. As you mentioned, Rowan Hibbard from Central High School is going to be performing on The Voice, and I would encourage you to find her on social media and follow her journey through this process. I'm super excited to watch her, and I think the whole community needs to rally behind her. Download the Voice app. If I get in trouble for saying that, I guess I get in trouble, but we can follow her journey through that. And I just think that it's another way that we can really unite as a community to support one of our students in something really, really fantastic. I'm excited this week because it is the powwow, and the events that it allows our students to participate in with students from all over the state is a super exciting experience. I would also encourage you that if you want to go to the powwow this year, they have sessions aligned for newbies. So if you go to a powwow and you've never been before, they are going to have sessions that you can go to, and somebody will talk to you about the powwow and kind of guide you through that experience so that you don't feel like you are at risk of doing something that might make you feel silly. So they're gonna walk you through that. And I think that is just a really fantastic thing that they're doing this year. Parent teacher conferences for the high schools are coming up. I was guilty of being that parent who always went to parent teacher conferences, even though my personal students were doing very well. But I think it's important to go and find out and talk to your teachers, regardless of whether your student is struggling in the class or whether your student is doing fantastic. Those teachers have great things to say. And I really don't think they enjoy being there bored and not having very many parents show up. So please go and talk to the parents at parent teacher conferences. Friends of the Children is a organization that came and spoke to me and a few other directors last week. I'm really excited about this because this organization, I think they're going to come and talk to the board when they're fully operational. They have hired an executive director locally. They're going to be providing mentoring for 4 to 6 year olds. We're going to start with 4 to 6 year olds, and the mentors follow that student all the way up to graduation. And those are going to be paid mentor positions. So they start with a family, and the mentors, it'd be a lot to expect a mentor to commit for 13 years or more, but they commit for at least 3 years, and then they can bring in another mentor to follow that student all the way through high school. And the 16 students a year is the goal. So I'm really excited about the students it's going to work with to get them through to graduation. And I think it can have a positive impact. Elementary family nights have been going on for title schools, and those programs invite the parents and the students to come to the schools, but it also allows the schools to communicate to the parents about the title plan for that building. So those are really important. I've attended a couple, and I encourage board members and community members to do that as well. The insurance company for the district met, so I know we'll be bringing a proposal forward. The first PAC committee meeting was held last Wednesday at General Beetle in tandem with their family night. 2 board members were present. They elected new officers. I'm really excited to work with the PAC committee this year. A shout out to Mr. Talley because he hosted the October principals meeting today. Miraculously, it was an incredibly full agenda, and he really kept it to 2 hours. And I give him a huge shout out because I'm positive I couldn't have done that. As going on to some things going on with the directors, Director Seals from the Teaching Learning Innovators, she has sent out to you the test results for Acadians K-5 reading and K2 math just earlier this evening, and the MAP reports. instead of doing a presentation for the board this year, she sent out the results this time. And if you have any questions, reach out. She will also be doing a training for Mr. Birkland, Mr. Talley, myself, and Ms. Clapham. JJ Carroll is going to continue his work on the revised academy plan for the high schools on Friday during the professional development day with CTE teachers. Once again, we discussed that in great detail at the study session last week and encourage people to watch that. Director of Facilities Kumar continues to work on the Southwest Middle School build and the work being done there. He did report to board leadership last week that we are 11% complete. And as Bishop Carr was surprised to hear, the completion date is the fall of 2024, not 2023. So yeah, Bishop Carr is ready to move in before the walls rerun sheetrocked, I think. Mr. Daniel, with Director of IT, is working on a new dashboard product called the Dairy. He'll be presenting to the directors, and then he'll come to the board with that. I'm super excited. I worked on some of the rollout of that last year, and we're starting out with an attendance dashboard, and I think it's really going to be helpful to principals. Also, just the daily operations of the IT department, keeping all of that working smoothly for a district that serves almost 13,000 students and 1,800 employees. That's to be celebrated. Mrs. Talley, Director of Federal Programs, held a principal title meeting last week and continues to work on supporting the title schools and other federal programming. Now is the season where we are submitting the addendums to federal program budgets that have been previously submitted, but due to lack of being able to find people to take positions, we go back and amend those budgets so that we can fully utilize that federal money to support students. Dr. Hafer continues to struggle with a lack of staff in vital roles, but she and her program are working hard to manage that. The need is great, so we are still looking for paraprofessionals. She is also working with Mr. Talley on a plan to address behavior issues in our building. And I know that the school board is very concerned about behavior sometimes that is out of control and impacts administration and staff. And so they'll be reporting later with what they come up with for that. Gary Manuel, who attends school board meetings in person. I appreciate that. Mr. Manuel joined us in the HR. He is continuing to learn and to direct that HR department and all of the nuances of that work. Today, he presented to the principals about progressive discipline, documentation, and having tough conversations, and all of that support from the HR department to leadership is incredibly important. Director Sassy is focusing on the budgetary needs of the district, the support service priorities, and all the day-to-day financial actions of the district, which also is huge considering we employ 1,800 employees and serve almost 13,000 students. I do want to remind the board that I will be in Chamberlain at the next board meeting. Mr. Talley will be on the hot seat to give the report. I will be participating in the large school district meeting. So that's where I will be, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Great report. We look forward to yours, Mr. Talley. All right, we are at other. Does anybody have an other? Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to mention regarding, I think it's item P, let me double check. Yeah, regarding item P, we do realize that other staff are also subbing besides our teachers. We wanted to make sure to get the teacher one forward, and we are still looking at options for other staff as well. So I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Good point. Thank you.
I just wanted to, I added a comment real quick in listening to Mrs. Swigart's report. I wanted to thank you for the work that you're doing. It's not easy, but I'm enjoying the direction that the district is going. And so I want to congratulate you for the job well done. The other thing that I wanted to say is one of the great things about our meetings is the ability for the public to come and have public comments. But I also think with that privilege, there's a responsibility of being truthful And a couple of weeks, I've gotten emails after the meetings about statements that have been made in the public comment section that haven't been factual. And it's very concerning because those things go out public, they're recorded. And I think that each speaker needs to do the best that they can about being factual. What I've decided to do, that if I get information that a statement is not factual, I think it's just fair to come and set the record of what is true. An example, so if someone makes a public comment and says that the name of the school board member from Area 2 is David, right? Okay, that comment is made. Actually, that person is Troy. So what I will do at the next board meeting under other, will just comment and say, actually, there was a statement made at the last board meeting that the Area 2 person is David. Actually, that person is Troy. And so I just think that it's fair that the record is set straight when there are, again, I'm not calling anybody a liar or whatever, but there are certain facts and we must stay with the facts. Again, in Mrs. Swigert's report, she talked about behavioral issues. I just wanted to let the district know, the community know, and specifically principals and teachers that the board is aware of the issue. We are concerned about the issue. I want to make sure that there's a feeling that you are being heard. It's a very difficult problem. And again, Mr. Talley is spearheading what we're going to do about that. And so this statement is just to let the district know that the board knows and we're concerned and we do want to help the teachers and the principals in the buildings with our behavioral issues.
Any other? Okay. Any other? Okay, go ahead.
I just want to thank the student coming here again. I'm beating you to it this time, Kate.
Yeah, you did.
It just makes me feel good to see y'all here. You did great in your reports tonight. I love having you here. I love getting that feedback directly from you students. So keep up the good work and thank you for being here. Thank you for being in your position.
Ditto. You did a very good job tonight. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again. All right, we are going to go into executive session then for SDCL 1-25-2.3, and there will be no further action afterwards. Thank you all for coming and staying.
Motion and second, please.
Motion.
Do we still have Jim on? Yes. The roll call?
Second, if we didn't get it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Who was the move? Who moved? Thank you, students.